Nobody really predicted this. Everybody thought the Covington Catholic suit wasn't going to go anywhere. And then when it got dismissed for the most part, everyone kind of said, yup, but then a judge reinstated at least 3 of the claims. And a lot of people still don't know this. So here's the story right now. Covington Catholic student's defamation suit against Warren is dismissed. I believe there are 2 people, notably Elizabeth Warren, who is being freed from her defamation suit. And it's kind of surprising to me. It's because she's a politician, that she's protected and can defame people. Wow. You're gonna have to explain that one to me, I don't know. But here's the funny thing. I saw this story on Reddit, and I clicked the comments. And the comments from everybody were like, we all knew the suit wouldn't go anywhere, insulting the kids, believing the fake news, because apparently these people don't read the news, just the headlines, so they didn't know that the whole story was like fake for the beginning, but they still don't know that the Covington lawsuit is back on. So we'll do a quick refresher on that because I got a story from last week. But first, let's read about Elizabeth Warren and how she managed to escape accountability for defaming these kids. Fox News reports, a Kentucky judge has dropped presidential candidate Senator Elizabeth Warren from a libel lawsuit filed by 8 Covington Catholic high school students on the grounds of sovereign immunity. The lawsuit, filed in August, named Warren along with a New Mexico congresswoman and 10 other public figures, claiming they made, defamatory comments about the students following their January encounter with Native Americans in Washington, D.C. Only Warren and Rep. Deborah Helland, a Democrat from New Mexico, were dismissed from the suit. Sovereign immunity extends to agencies of the United States or federal officers acting in their official capacities. The decision by the district judge, William O. Bertelsmann, read. Now, the segment I just did before this was about AOC losing her legal battle. She settled, she caved, she won the battle, but the war is still on. This is a very effective way to prevent AOC from having to unblock other people on Twitter. Here's the thing. Both Ocasio-Cortez and Donald Trump have argued that because their Twitter accounts are their personal accounts, they can block whoever they want. But the courts disagree. The courts have said these accounts are representing you, and you speaking politics is you're a politician. End of story. So your personal account, yeah, that's part of your governmental duties. While many people were angry that Donald Trump was forced to unblock people, and many people were angry that so was AOC, it's a weird ruling, I gotta admit. This also extends an interesting protection to Donald Trump even. Presumably. I don't know if this sovereign immunity extends to Trump, but it says to agencies of the United States or federal officers in their official capacities. So Trump is a federal officer, isn't he? I mean, he's an agent of the United States. I'd imagine he's the president. Does that mean that Donald Trump can accuse anybody of anything and you can't sue him? That would be really weird. But that's what we're seeing right now about Warren. Warren defamed these kids, and she gets to. Because even if she's using a personal account, it's already been determined that is in her official capacity as an agent of the federal government. Let's read a little bit more. Actually, before we do, I got to give a shout out, timcast.com/donate if you'd like to support my work. PayPal option, crypto option, physical address. But of course, the best thing you can do is just, as per usual, share this video. As you know, YouTube deranks. You get the picture. If you really want to help me out, you can share the video so I can continue doing the work that I do. But let's get back to the story. They say, sovereign immunity is the doctrine that the U.S. government or those acting on its behalf may not be sued without its consent. That sounds crazy, but yep. Warren had tweeted that the Native American man at the center of the overblown run-in had endured hateful taunts. Helland, one of the first Native American women elected to Congress, tweeted about the man being harassed and mocked by a group of MAGA hat-wearing teens. A viral clip picked up by mainstream media outlets gave the impression that Covington Catholic student Nick Sandman, wearing a red MAGA hat at the time, and his classmates were taunting and mocking an elderly Native American man following the March for Life rally. That we know the context. The full video footage later revealed that the Covington Catholic students were harassed by a group of Black Hebrew Israelites before Nathan Phillips, the Native American man, and other Native American activists approached the students. And I gotta say, it is one of the most infuriating things that this guy got in the face of these kids. You know, all that righteous indignation they had, and the reality was it was Nathan Phillips who started it all, who got in this kid's face, who was minding his own business. He walked up to them. He invaded their space. And they smeared the kids? Dude, they don't care about justice, man. They just want to win. The court concludes that the challenge statements by Warren and Haaland, whether one agrees with them or finds them objectionable, are communications intended to convey the politicians' views on matters of public interest to their constituents. As such, the statements were made within the scope of defendants' employment as elected representatives. Does that mean Donald Trump can accuse somebody of the most insane and egregious thing and you can't do anything about it? Apparently so. Bertelsmann did not exercise jurisdiction over the other 10 defendants in the suit, including CNN's Anna Navarro, Kathy Griffin, ABC News' Matthew Dowd, Reza Aslan, Adam Edelin, Princeton history professor Kevin M. Cruz, Sean King, Mother Jones editor-in-chief Clara Jeffrey, and Rewire News editor Jody Jacobson. The case will continue in Kenton County Circuit Court where it was filed. Sandman has separately filed a defamation suit for $250 million against the Washington Post. A federal judge in Kentucky dismissed the case in July but reopened it on October 28th based on an amended complaint filed by Sandman's legal team. So let me tell you where we are right now. The lawsuits are still on, okay? Very little has changed. The Washington Post was initially dismissed. They brought it back because they amended, but that's normal. I think a lot of people were surprised it happened, but basically they said, here, we're going to sue for all these things, and the judge went through it and said, you can't revise this. Here's the scope. The lawyers then said, we're going to pick these three and move forward. So we have a statement from last week, but I think the context is important, considering Warren is now being, let go. Attorney for Covington Catholic teen reacts to judge reopening lawsuit against WAPO. I'm going to skip a lot of the contextual stuff we already get, and I want to get straight to the statement here. They say, appearing on Fox and Friends with host Ainsley Earhart, McMurtry said that when the case was initially dismissed by Bertelsmann, they had not provided all of the evidence that showed that Phillips had done what Phillips had done on the mall that day. McMurtry said they believe the video evidence shows that Nathan Phillips presented a false factual narrative when he described what happened, and the judge was persuaded by the additional video evidence. So it's not just that the initial suit was dismissed, it's that maybe they jumped the gun. Maybe the lawyers, for whatever reason, didn't put all the evidence forward, or maybe it's their intent to drag this out. Because I'll tell you, there is a legal strategy of burying people in paperwork for a long period of time to force them to shell out money. You force them to lose. It's quite possible all they really want is an apology. Look at it this way. You tell somebody we're going to sue you, and we're not going to stop, and you're going to have to respond to these suits and the paperwork, and you're going to have to hire a lawyer to deal with it. That's going to be very expensive. This is why some people make the mistake of settling, but it's really challenging. If you're a high-profile individual, you might have to settle. These news outlets will not because their credibility is on the line. However, if they get dragged through the coals, it might become overbearing and expensive. I will say, though, if anybody's got money in this, it's going to be the major media companies. I don't think that Sandman is going to have nearly as much money, so we'll see what happens. They say, the judge ruled that an amended complaint submitted by Sandman's attorneys alleged in greater detail than the original complaint that Phillips deliberately lied concerning the events at issue, and that Phillips had an unsavory reputation, which for the defendant's negligence or malice would have alerted defendant to this fact. Yup, it was only a day. It was a day afterwards. We found out the dude lied about being a Vietnam vet, and then all the media companies were like, well, hold on. He was a Vietnam era vet. That's what he said. Nope. Somebody found the footage of him saying he was a Vietnam vet. He lied. He's a liar. He started the problem. And because the news media doesn't do their job, now you get this. So you know what, man? This lawsuit, I hope these kids win. Because someone needs to send a message to these companies. You can't just lie about people. They're so lazy. You know what it is? They've gotten away with it for so long. They're shocked now that any of these peasants circling their ivory tower would dare challenge them. But we're allowed to insult and smear whoever we want. What are these potato sack wearing individuals with pitchforks doing outside my tower? Yeah, they're angry. And perhaps if the news companies are put on notice that you will be sued when you lie and don't do your job, maybe they'll start doing their job again. If there is no repercussion from media outlets who lie, then they have no incentive to tell the truth. And we need them. They're the fourth estate. They're supposed to be speaking truth to power, but they are not. Instead of talking about, I don't know, Epstein, what do they talk about? A bunch of kids in hats on the stairs of the Lincoln Memorial. Who cares? Do your job. And if you don't, you get sued. So I hope something comes of this that's positive, that forces these media companies to do their due diligence, to fact check, and not rush out the gate to print a story that turns out to be false. Stick around. I got one more segment coming up in a few minutes, and I will see you all shortly.